and we welcome you to this meeting, and hope they are going to have a wonderful time. So in order not to waste our time, we'll just ask you to write your name in the chat box and probably where you're connecting from, so that we know as many people as possible where they are connecting from. And then also, you may indicate that you want to take the floor when we open it up for tributes. And I hope everybody will have that opportunity to contribute when the time comes. We have a host of panelists who have joined us, and my colleague, Ruth Olofin, is also the program manager of Clean Foundation, is also here with me. She'll be co-hosting or co-anchoring this meeting with me. Before we go to the specifics, I would like to invite the Chairman, Board of Directors of Clean Foundation, Professor Etanibi Alemeka, for the welcome remarks. Thereafter, also we'll invite Dr. Lydia Roma, the Board Chair of NOPRIM Foundation, for also a welcome remarks before we go to the activities of the day. Once again, my name is Benson Olubu. I'm the Executive Director of Clean Foundation, and I want to sincerely welcome you to this international colloquium. Gabriel is Prof. Yes. So, Prof, please go ahead with your welcome remarks. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I do hope everyone can hear me. I think it's really quite befitting that we started this colloquium with the national anthem of Nigeria. Innocent was truly a hero, a patriot, a nationalist, and at the same time, a globalist. So I think we truly honor him by singing the national anthem, that it is not just politicians who hold offices whose credibility are contested that are heroes in Nigeria. It's difficult for me to actually participate in this event for several reasons. First, maybe culturally, I think one of the ways Africans shield older ones from the pain, the trauma of a passing young person is to disqualify them for participation. On this occasion, it's difficult to disqualify myself as culture demands. I need to pay compliments, respect to innocent. So I welcome you to this colloquium, which has been organized specifically to honor him, to remind us that if we really want to keep the legacy of innocence, we need to be truly committed to the work he has done. And that is basically fundamentally to make everybody safe and secure and free wherever they are found. Whether in Nigeria, whether in Nigerian communities, whether in Africa, whether in Asia, whether in North America, whether in South America, whether in Europe, human beings are not safe. They are not free. They are not secure. So this is not just a local concern. And the intervention of innocent, his network, all showed that he was indeed concerned about building network that will create a safer, a more secure, a more peaceful world. So we want to thank the panelists, in fact, for coming and, quite enthusiastically willing to participate in this symposium. As it's been seen on the program, is divided into two sections. The first section of about an hour is intended to discuss the issue of public safety in a democracy by panelists, and the second hour will be for us to pay tribute to Innocent, our friend, our colleague, and our co-patriot. Again, I welcome you to this colloquium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Etanubi Alameka, and thank you for those soothing words. Yes, I know that culture demands that you stay off these celebrations, but we also know that Innocent was like a son to you. So I think we are happy that you're able to participate, and also he would have loved you to participate. I mean, if he was around and trying to direct people on what to do. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I also want to invite Dr. Lydia Oma, the chairperson of NOPRIM Foundation. For those who don't know, NOPRIM Foundation and Clean Foundation is like a Siamese twins. So Clean, the Innocent Foundations, one is basically for the supply
Hello, everyone. I guess that's some network glitch, but Dr. Benson will be back online as soon as possible. Can we have Dr. Lydia just give short welcome remarks? Dr. Lydia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And I hope that everyone can hear me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I am really, really honored to be given this opportunity, not just to be part of the colloquium, but also to welcome members to the colloquium on behalf of NOPRIM. I heard when Prof said culturally he shouldn't be doing this. I think I agree with him absolutely, because I found it very difficult when I was told that I will do that, that I will give a welcome address to, on behalf of Innocent. I'm really, really getting a bit emotional. Well, I want to say here that in addition to that, I found myself a bit inadequate, because since the passing of Innocent, I read quite a number of tributes that have been written for him. And it was when I was going through those tributes that I realized that I really did not know Innocent that much as I thought. I found that people who really worked with Innocent coming up with new perspectives of Innocent. And what that did to me was it made me to respect Innocent more in death than I even did when he was alive. And I happened to meet Innocent just when I started our organization in the same year that he established NOPRIM. NOPRIM was established by Innocent in the year 2000 because Innocent does not believe in keeping anything to himself, not even knowledge, not even opportunities. So he opened up the space to engage about 53 civil society organizations to join him in working towards police reforms. And this was across the country. And since then, Innocent invited me for the first meeting in Lagos. And after that, I found that what struck me first was that Innocent was someone who wanted to break glass ceilings. He wanted to go into muddy, ground. He didn't want to do just light work like in civil society organizations, in addition to building networks. He believed that everyone should come on board. It should be collaborative because the job cannot be done just by one organization. And so when he wanted to step aside from NOPRIN, Innocent insisted I should take over. I found that very interesting because it showed that Innocent was very bold, because it wasn't common then to find a lady from the north chairing any network that he set up in Lagos. And for that, I respected him a lot because he saw some little potentials which he needed to build on. I wouldn't want to say much about how Innocent impacted on me, but I want to say that he provided a great opportunity for many civil society organizations. At least on our list, we have 53 now, that join hands with him to actually see that the police is reformed. And Innocent will always say, I'm working for police reforms and not police destruction. I know that the concept itself, he being the visionary, the concept also evolved over time. Originally, it was just, to actually help the police to work in a democratic environment, respecting democratic values and human rights. But gradually, this evolved. Finally, I would like to say that Innocent took the bold step to make sure that as early as 2004, I think, to make sure that the concept of community policing is adopted and practiced in Nigeria. I recall how he facilitated and saw to it that policemen were sent to the US to go and learn about community policing. Indeed, we are going to miss Innocent tremendously. The space he has created, I don't know how it will be filled, but I'm so encouraged because of the way everyone has come out to celebrate Innocent. And I just wish us a very good discussion this evening at this colloquium. Thank you again for inviting me, and you are all welcome.
Thank you, Prof. My network had an issue, and my colleagues have about 4 networks they are trying to switch me on to ensure that I'm online. So please, if you see me moving from one network to other, just know that the technicians want to ensure that we have a smooth and seamless meeting this evening. The die is cast now, so we want to start with the program. And I know that all our panelists are here. Some of them also, because of timing and also earlier engagements, we'll have to pick some people before others. Like we said, we are discussing International Colloquium on Police Reforms, Public Safety and Democratic Rights in honor of Innocent Chukwuma. And also to just inform us that we are recording this, the essence of the recording is just for legacy purposes. So please bear with us if we didn't inform you earlier than now. But the essence of recording this is for legacy purposes and also to have something we will leave with the family. And then if your video is on, we'll be happy if you can put it off just to stabilize the network so that we don't be grappling with bandwidth. I would like to start this panelist with Maina Kia. And why I want to invite Maina Kia is like he had ensured that Innocent and the wife had a honeymoon in Kenya, that's East Africa. And Maina has also been involved in the work of African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Currently, he's a director in Human Rights Watch. And in his previous life, he keeps reminding us in his previous life, he used to work for the UN. He's a special rapporteur on freedom of association and assembly, and also was the national chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Kenya National Human Rights Commission, and also was one of the founding members of the Human Rights Commission of Kenya, the Kenya Human Rights Commission. So you have the CSO Kenya Human Rights Commission and the official one. So he both led the two. And so, Mina, if we are to start with you, our question really would be, what was your relationship with Innocent in terms of looking at how to tend military dictatorships in Africa, and also the promise of the African human rights system? Because I know most times Innocent visited the African human rights system and also the UN Council to request for the military dictatorship in Nigeria then to be placed on embargo and then sanctions to be placed. And I know you played an enormous role in terms of that. Can you just share with us your experience with military dictatorship in Africa and then the promise of the African human rights system, and how you interacted with Innocent under those activities and programs? You have 7 minutes and your time starts now.
Hello, everybody. I hope that you can hear me.
We can hear you, Mina. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for organizing this. It's really good to be able to play a little bit of a role at this time, the sad time of Innocent's passing. And I see that Josephine is also on this colloquium. So hello, Josephine, and it's been a while since we last met, and it's a pity that we are reconnecting under these circumstances. Innocent and I go back to the time when we're both pretty young activists. So he was then at CLO and dealing with police issues, and I was at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, which is an NGO, where I was the founding executive director, and we were all dealing with police issues, police brutality, police killings, and we came together between Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa, trying to figure out how we could, first of all, learn from each other, learn how our differences were actually quite similar, and what we could do to move policing to a much more humane and acceptable standard. And what was interesting is that in the conversations we had with Innocent, and as well with many Nigerians then, was how similar the one-party dictatorship in Kenya at that time was very, very similar to the military dictatorship in Nigeria. So that even though one was a civilian dictatorship and the other one is a military dictatorship, but they all drew their roots, especially around policing, from the colonial experience, and how that colonial experience of policing was meant to subjugate and repress and make sure that Africans, the majority people, were kept quiet and repressed, and they couldn't raise their heads. So that's where it all started from, and we began trying to figure out how do we then move this process. How do we move this process forward to a place where police become part of our community? So we threw out so many ideas in that time. How do we learn? How do we in Kenya learn from the experiences of people in Nigeria? At that time, I must say that Nigeria was pretty worse off. And when we looked at analysis of these countries, I think it was clear that there were a number of similar challenges we had. One was corruption on one side, and the other one was police. How do we deal with this? With the police being, rather than being a police service, it was actually a police force for the regime. It was a regime police force. So we began thinking about how we could do it. And through all that process, we were clear that there are many ways of doing it. Some people have to work in terms of working closely with the police, encouraging the police. Others who have to put the demand so the police can then perhaps work with those who are less critical to be able to move that process. Because it's impossible if you don't have the demand and the criticism coming for an institution like the police to then go around for the police to then work with those who are trying to work with them in a proper way. So the two things must go hand in hand. And it was very interesting working together then. So we tried different things. How can we appeal to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which was then quite young, trying to get its feet together. We're not so sure how it works. Could we work with the UN system? Can we use that to see how we can push the agendas going, and how, and moving that? And so at one point, in fact, we had staff exchanges between KHRC and CLO. So we had staff coming from Kenya going and working and living in Nigeria for about a month, 2 months, and Nigerians coming to Kenya and living with us for a month, 2 months, so we can be able to see how we can interact. And it was at that time, of course, as those of us who are a little older now can imagine, the one way in which we used to meet was through conferences and through seminars and workshops. Otherwise, because there's very little ways for us to travel on our own in those days to be able to meet up. So these conferences were quite important. And we always agreed that the most important part of the conferences was often not even what was being said there, but really the networking and the interactions we got outside of the main themes and the main substance of the conferences. Thereafter, we worked together in APCOF, the African Civilian Oversight, African Policing Civilian Oversight Forum, which was set up in South Africa. I was that time then the head of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and Innocent was coming as the head of CLEAN. So we came and formed APCOF. I remember those meetings in South Africa. We had very good meetings trying to get Africans to come together and see how do we do civilian oversight of the police and what ideas do we have. And of course, these purposes, and then at that time we were at the National Commission, we had the major responsibility around police accountability. And how do we do that? So we're trying different ways, and we're learning again from Innocent. Maybe we should try and reach out to the police and work closely with them. Maybe others should, civil society should work and be critical of the police, so then we can bridge it. And one of the lessons we learned was I had a relationship with the then head of the police, and I took him to a high density area to talk to the community who are the most oppressed by the police. So I took the commissioner of police to meet real people on the ground to talk about how they view policing from their perspective. And what was striking was that the man had never heard this before. He had never heard the other side of the community responding and saying, this is what policing means to us. We see a policeman, we run. Or we can attack him, we attack him. Every time we see a policeman, it's extortion, it's bribery, it's this and that. So then how do you bridge that gap was the key issue. We also found that, in a sense, like everything else, you need to identify key people in different places who you can work with, because not all people in the police are going to work with you. Some will, some will not. So, but the whole idea was to try and use as many channels, as many tactics, as many strategies as you can to achieve the same goal, which is how do we get the police to be of service to us rather than being oppositional to us, rather than them attacking us. And it was a learning experience right through and through. And I must say that, I think we formed a duo especially at APCOF with Innocent, where we were playing we had a strategy jointly to move the agenda forward, because I think the South African experience was a bit different from ours in a certain way. But he was just a wonderful collaborator to work with in very many ways. And his sense of humor was absolutely unique. And we always laughed everywhere we met. And the last time I saw him was bumped into him in New York. He was coming from the Ford Foundation office. I was there, the UN rapporteur, on the streets of New York, something you don't imagine you will meet. And he was rushing somewhere and I was rushing somewhere, but we said, no, let us be late for those meetings. Let's sit down and have a cup of tea together, because it's been a while before we had met each other. And it was just a wonderful thing. And each time you met Innocent, you took off where you left off, like nothing had happened in between. It was he was a wonderful presence. And I think, we can talk a lot about what Innocent achieved, what he did, but the person of Innocent was just absolutely a wonderful presence as a human being. His charisma, his presence, his willingness to try new things, his ability to look forward was always good. His ability to learn and learn from others, and also teach others, and prepared to share. That was wonderful. Yet one of the things I loved about Innocent is that he retained that Nigerian spine, that Nigerian confidence, and a Nigerian ability to say, we can and we must do better, and will not accept all those things that happened. We'll take them. Nigerians are not going to take BS from anybody. And I loved that, because it's one of the things that, and I think sometimes Nigerians do not quite fathom how powerful that attitude of we don't take BS from nobody is the rest of us Africans. We enjoy it, we cherish it, we admire it. I wish we could use it more, whether it is when the Chinese are kicking out Africans from their apartments and saying they're all being thrown out. The country that will speak is going to be Nigeria. Everybody else, every other ambassador is quiet and hiding, but the Nigerian will not keep quiet in the midst of Africans being attacked. And that defense of our utu, our being as Africans, is something that Innocent embodied wherever he was, whatever he was doing. And that is something that we shall miss. But I also know that it seems to be a Nigerian thing. So I know it will continue. among others. And I hope you guys can be able to influence the rest of us Africans to grow some spine around these things and be able to focus strongly and confidently in the face of all the things that affect us as Africans and as Black people. So I'll just leave it there and say that, look, this has been very painful. It is very, very painful to me, and in so many ways. And I would have loved to come for the funeral services and the ceremonies that are happening this time, but I decided the best thing maybe is come later in the year to Nigeria and reconnect. And Josephine, I'm going to come and see you this year when things are a bit easier. I'm definitely going to come and see you and see my other friends who I have not seen for so long because of just life has taken us away. And I think it has been interesting that Innocent has brought us back again together to reconnect and to relearn from each other. So yeah, and Josephine, again, your visit with your daughters now to Kenya has got to be organized. We have got to do that because you have to show them where you guys went for your honeymoon so they can be able to understand that there's a softer part of Africa than just out there in Nigeria. But thank you very much, and I appreciate this chance to be part of this and to say that, ultimately I'm not even sure anymore this is going to be, we should be talking about police reform. I think we should be talking about police transformation, because it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's an African thing. I think those of you who followed what's been going on in the US can see that even the police in the US need a massive transformation from the way they deal with people. And the militarization of police has hurt civilians much more than anything else. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it's a global challenge. And I hope that Nigeria will lead us all in this global challenge. So this is not about, so I'm challenging you, Clean Foundation, to really take up a global mandate. How do we transform policing globally so police cannot be our enemies, so that when we're exercising our rights to assemble, our right to association, the police, we don't have to fear the police every single time, that we can know the police's role is to protect our rights first, and then we move through. So there's a lot of work to be done. So despite all the achievements that were done, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Maina. Thank you very much. I know you have the former UN pass. That's why I allowed you to go beyond the 7 minutes. Interestingly, one of the key things Innocent was thinking about was policing and the Black race. He has shared it with me that it's a research he would like to take on, how Black race is policed by the police. But it's something we all are going to be grappling with. Also, I mean, this is also something we're going to be doing. The colloquium is actually going to become an annual event, and what we are doing today, we also hope to have it in a book form. So we look forward to contributors, especially the panelists and other people who will be interested in submitting chapters for the colloquium we're going to publish on public safety, security, police reform, and democratic rights. I want to move to Asia now, and I hope Ranuka Daga is here with us. I know Ranuka had worked with Innocent as a member of Altus Global, and then from there also as Afro-Asia Association for Justice Development. And I know Ranuka comes highly recommended. Currently, she's the program director of Afro-Asia Association for Justice Development. She used to work with the Institute for Development and Communication in India, and has also lectured in different places, and currently has a collaboration with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in India. So please join me in welcoming Ranuka. And Ranuka, my question for you is, what do you see as the main key of South-South cooperation and the promise of the Afro-Asia Association for Justice Development in terms of Innocent's activities beyond Africa and the Americas, focusing on especially in Asia? What has been that relationship in terms of South-South cooperation and the promise of the Afro-Asia Association for Justice Development? Thank you.
Good evening from India. Benson, it's really a very sad event that's given rise to this occasion and conversation. And I am, however, uplifted by the outpouring of support to Innocent's ideas and the many programs and networks that he initiated and was part of. And I'm very happy to take forward this legacy. You know, one of Innocent's major contributions, what I see in police reforms and justice, which has a great potential for great global impact. And I'm sure Chris Thorne, who's the other person part of this visionary enterprise and is on the panel with us, will agree with me. Innocent was not only at the forefront of the African-Asian platform to pull in the local knowledge and initiatives to create a South-South forum to advance public safety and justice, but more than that, he took the onus to launch and support the organization through the Clean Foundation. Many of you may be knowing that AAAJD, the Afro-Asian Association for Justice Development, is registered in Nigeria and has a secretariat located at Clean Foundation. But what many of you may not be knowing is that Innocent gave all of us associated with AAAJD a free hand to draw on Clean's resources. And I must say, Benson has kept up that tradition. Those of you who are not well versed with what the AAAJD stands for, it's an alliance of organizations across the continents of Africa and Asia, organizations that are working on issues of public safety and this, and they are part of a partnership that come together not just as organizations for an event or for a program or a project, but is as an ongoing collaboration of a process that looks and delves into issues of justice as they unfold in the areas. You know, actually how it's unique, how the Afro-Asian Association is unique from other organizations is basically it's a partnership of regional powerhouses in the justice and rights sectors, organizations that are entrenched in the social, political, and the cultural ethos of their regions and countries. So what they do and what Innocent helped us do was to bring locally generated knowledge and expertise for synthesis and evolution, you know, at a South-to-South forum. So, and these have the capacity to shape the global debates in the justice sector. So it was not just a global organization. We are not part of a global organization that has been conceived at a higher level, and then we've had opened local offices. But it's an alliance of partners who share their mission and vision while being located in different situations, contexts, and conditions. And you're bound within certain commonalities of history, a colonial past, similar issues and challenges of development, and most importantly, a social order of collective communities. Just to run through quickly, we are Clean Foundation is the secretariat. We have the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in India as a member. We have the ICJK in Kenya, which is also a partner and member. And also APCOF is working very closely with us to take forward some of these ideas that Innocent helped to germinate. Miners already talked about, Clean Foundation being very strongly entrenched in the supply side, working alongside the police, the government institutions, and civil society, providing a unique mix of options and solutions. I'm going to give you a very small example. I remember when the Nigerian Police Service Commission many years ago shared its community policing processes with the Benin police, and they worked with a Benin NGO together to come out with an outline of a community policing initiative in Benin. Imagine, so you have a cross-country collaboration of police, but along with civil society. Of course, this wasn't part of the AAAJD, but it's early avatar of the Altus Global Alliance, of which the current manifestation is the Asian and African, the South-South partnership. And the partners we've had, what we could foresee and how Innocent helped us bring together these networks, different kind of strengths, different organizations brought different strengths to the table. So you had Clean Foundation that's earned its stripes in police reforms. ICJK has an expert capacity on judicial processes. This comes with an academic rigor. APCOF has contributed to the oversight review, and all of these together have been, have helped in building a multidisciplinary, a multi-sectoral approach to justice stakeholding. So we draw on different perspectives while we move on a common agenda. But here I'd like to, focus on some of Innocent's ideas on police and the justice sector reforms. He was very much a believer in a citizen-centric governance of public institutions. He worked to make local people part of institutional processes. In fact, that's been one of the agendas of the Afro-Asian Alliance, is to get common citizens, their needs, local sensitivities reflected as part of the dialogue in an institutional process, in service delivery, and in creating just solutions. So the idea was not to move the masses of, towards human rights standards, but to move along with the masses, supporting their needs within the larger ambit of the international rights standards. So which draw meaning from a local and a cultural context. So that was what was different from the other organizations. So it wasn't the slogan, which is a very common slogan, that to make the local vocal, with people's participation and inclusive agenda and engagement of local organizations. But the idea was to interconnect local hubs across regions and continents. So the local hub meant that you worked from the supply side. You had the police, you had the civil society, you may have academia, you have practitioners, you have human rights activists, you have local leadership. So they together form a hub. And these local hubs, whether at the smaller police station level, at the community colleges, these are the people who connect across countries and continents. And then the kind of dynamism they come up with, that's what was the idea, to lead, interject some of the issues in the debate for global reform in the social security, the security sector reforms. So this is very different if you're just going to have different police officers or coming from different countries and meeting, or have the media or leaders coming and meeting in a conference. But when you have these connected hubs, smaller local hubs connecting globally or across continents or different countries and regions, so that's when you have ideas coming from the real needs of people and the kind of suffering and the opportunities that they're looking for. So that's something which we are trying to build in the Afro-Asian Association, and that's something close to Innocent's heart. I also know that one of the very prominent ideas he had, which I shared and we discussed a couple of times on this, was how to hardwire social capital that our African and Asian communities are reservoirs of. How to institutionalize the social capital into governance systems. Historically, we know that our communities are very kinship-based, built on relations of reciprocity, solidarity, and trust. And the social reservoir has been the mainstay of governance. If the police station is a 3-day or a 5-day walk away from the community, it's a local order that imparts justice and safeguards individual lives or families which are hit by a crisis. Even today in India, we have local communities coming together with makeshift ambulances, rushing oxygen tanks and patients to hospitals because either there's no health service in the interiors or the health system has collapsed. So at every crisis point, we are falling back on these communities. And even if you look at the service in today, the International Colloquium or Innocence Memorial and the funeral program, it's very much been a part of the ethos and the solidarity network, the kind of love, the sharing, the amount of people who've come together. I mean, if we were trying to organize this as an international conference, I don't know how much time, effort, and money, and if we could have had this kind of engagement, I don't think that would have been possible. I'm very much doubt it. But this is the kind of social capital that we are trying to generate and take AAAJD forward with. And Innocent was very generous in sharing this network and combining all of us across the world and getting us all together. So this is what I foresee one of the areas where we would like to move forward. And if I may say so, Benson, what we've been trying to think at the AAAJD, I think you suggested that we have an annual colloquium. And I was thinking that perhaps we could have a conference, an annual conference in Innocent's memory, where we discuss issues of democratic policing or reform. I know it's a very big ask, but if I follow, Gramsci, and I believe Innocent was also very closely reading up on Gramsci. Gramsci he wrote very famously from his prison and said that he's a pessimist because of intellect, but he's an optimist because of will. So it's this optimism of will I think we should take forward and set our sights high and perhaps go forward for a conference where we could have contributions and of articles and papers, but perhaps if you could organize it into an international event annually, I think that would be a great way to go forward and remember, take forward Innocent's legacy. I don't know how much time I have, but there are.
Yes, I think your time has expired, Ranuka. Maybe just concluding words. I know that it's already midnight in India, but just your concluding words.
Yeah, it's not so bad, but yeah. A couple of other areas that I wanted to flag was, Innocent was very much a champion for the grassroots institutions, taking reform from the grassroots. And he was, before he joined Ford Foundation and when he is leading the Alters Global Alliance, we worked together very closely to bring about reform in the police stations. And prior to that, police station reforms had not been on the agenda of change or reform in the police. There was focus on administrative changes, on budget-related issues, on tenure, but we started the police station visitations and brought together the community, civil society organizations, built capacity of the police and citizens and civil society. And that was something which I think we miss, and we would like to take that forward because we think that's something that moves from the grassroots and is able to shape and create change in this very important sector. I would also just like to mention that, Innocent was very large in creating young leadership in the justice sector. And I think he has left that contribution, and that's something which will help us take forward his ideas. And lastly, I think he's built a community of justice actors, and networks. Where do you find this cross-cutting support from in domains from police, political leadership, civil society, and academia? And I think this is something which we, at least in the AAAJD, would like to anchor and take forward. And I'm very glad to have been part of this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ranuka. Thank you so much. And I know that we literally dragged you out of sleeping by this time of the day. But we're very grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. The tributes, of course, there'll be another opportunity for us to also engage. There's an elephant in the room, and I'm moving to that elephant now. It's a big masquerade. And it's no other person than former Inspector General of Police, retired now, IGP Solomon Arase, who worked tries to help you to overcome the criticisms. Solomon.
Hello, can anyone hear me? Right now, it's raining cats
so I want to invite.
Okay, Dr. Benson.
Yes, sorry, Ruth. So I want to invite Dr. Solomon Arase. Apologies for that. We have a lot of network. It's raining, actually, I must confess, which is also a good sign in Africa when it rains. So I want to ask you, Dr. Solomon Arase, the demand and supply side of police accountability and the contribution of Innocent through the Clean Foundation and probably Not Pray Foundation, and probably in your discussion, maybe you also share with us how you thought about the complaints response unit and what was Clean's and Innocent's contribution to setting up that complaints response unit that actually has stayed different IGPs. I mean, you started it in 2016. It's still there in 2021. Interestingly, it's now in the Police Act 2020. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Benson. Just as Professor Alemeka said, I'm a bit emotional, talking about Innocent Chukwuma. When our paths crossed, I was the principal staff officer to the Inspector General of Police. And most of them whenever I came up with, Innocent came up with suggestions about police reforms, they were always very skeptical. And they would tell me, PSO, look, most of these civil society organizations, they are very mercantile. They collect resources from foreign government. They want to diminish the police, and we shouldn't give them a platform, to do that. I tried to dissuade them. I said, this young man, yes, I agree, he's very, very critical with a lot of he came up with the corruption perception of the police. Himself and Kenny, they were invited severally. The IGs, they wanted to, ask them, how did they come about those perceptions? But one thing you cannot take away from Innocent was that apart from his criticism of, law enforcement agencies in Nigeria, he was always prepared to how to solve the problem, especially in the area of human rights-driven policing policies. Apart from corruption, the abuse of police powers at levels of minor interaction with citizens, use of force, arrest, detention, investigation, mental issue in police.
Yeah, Dr. Solomon, I think your network has frozen. Maybe. I think you are in Abuja with us, so probably the rain is affecting your network. Gabriel, can you check? You are muted, sir. Can you just unmute? Okay.
Sorry, the network is poor here. It's raining.
Yes, it's raining here. Yes, we are west. Go ahead.
We started having the discussion with Innocent to say that when you are going to have a policy, like community policing, you must be able to situate it within the socio-cultural, background of the country in which you are going to implement it. Getting the ideas from the UK, from USA, and trying to, bring them wholesale into the Nigerian system may not work. He was the only person that I could talk to, who I could express my, my concerns with about how to drive this process. And luckily enough, when he had the opportunity to get the Ford Foundation grants, we sent about $300,000. We sent some officers to the UK, but when they came back, we started now experimenting with how do you now domesticate the knowledge that you acquired. And the first place we tried to domesticate that was Akwa Ibom State. Then, as the commissioner of police, you cannot enter Akwa Ibom State. They were picking up people from churches, from shopping malls. It was a Hobetian state that we already had in Akwa Ibom. And himself and Professor Alemeka, I invited them to be my guests in Akwa Ibom. They were there with me for about 4 or 5 days. And we organized a workshop where we need to now drag in local government people into the non-state actors who were supposed to help us implement this program of community policing. As we speak, the community policing doctrine, as was entrenched between myself, Professor Alemeka, and Innocent Chukwuma, is what has brought a semblance of sanity to Akwa Ibom State. Not to talk about my relationship with him, when he introduced me to Dr. Chris Toon, when they were having this case tracking system with the Lagos State government. By the time we finish, dealing with Pantiste CID. Pantiste CID in those days, it was a place that everybody they say, oh, if you go to Pantiste CID, it's dreaded. I say, no, it should not be dreaded. A law enforcement organization that cannot reach out to the people and make them feel comfortable. It's not a law enforcement organization. And between him and Chris, we were able to change the narrative of, what Panti CID will be. Now, you mentioned the issue of the complaint response unit. The complaint response unit was, it was conceptualized when we discovered that what himself and I've forgotten which of that organization assisted him in setting up Stop the Bribes. Stop the Bribes was a platform that was set up by a Clean Foundation. Clean Foundation was, were the people who were supposed to oversee. Then when I came in, I now thought about complementing that Stop the Bribe with the complaint response unit. And just as you rightly agreed, it has become something that has become robust. And one area that I felt a bit worried about, if Nigerians had keyed into that platform, I think the NSAS issue we're talking about wouldn't have happened, because the platform was potent enough. It was, was supposed to, make the Nigerian people own the Nigerian police force in terms of this thing. Well, it's unfortunate we have lost Innocent. I don't know what I'm going to say that will assuage the pain that a lot of us will feel. When I look back, sometimes I say, have we lost the battle of police reforms? Between 1999 and as we speak, we had 3 police reforms. And those 3 police reforms, Innocent Chukuma and Professor Alem had an input into it. Unfortunately, the political will to be able to drive these reforms, we're not there. So I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. I don't know how we are going to drive this process further. But we'll just pray that we'll be able to use the platforms that Madam who spoke, Dr. Lydia or Professor Lydia, said there are about 50 or so civil society organizations or something like that. If we'll be able to harness our energy and redirect it, the police force cannot be allergic to public criticism. Any police force that is allergic to public criticism cannot make progress. And we must be able to let them know that it is the taxpayers' money that is used in paying their salaries and buying them firearms. So we must not give up. We can continue to insist that we need a responsible police force in this country, because today it could be my own relation. Tomorrow, you never can tell. It could be your own relation. I thank you very much for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arresti. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your contribution. And also the fact that you actually work with the people here. I think we also need to put that on the table. That being an IGP doesn't, you are not accessible, you are accessible. And we thank you for that. Move to somebody who was a boss, winning us something is still not present person than
everyone. The network is really, really bad. And I suspect, I'm hoping that it comes back. Oh.
Okay, I don't know whether you can hear me. It's raining seriously. I mean, if you listen carefully at the background, you will hear the rain. So I'm sure also that the rain is affecting the network that we are using. And we're actually moving from one network to another network just to ensure that we continue. But thank you very much. Ayobe, back to you. My question was human rights activism in Nigeria and the role of the police desk of the CLO. We would like you to take us to memory lane. Why was it being innocent boss while you were the president of Civil Liberties Organization? Thank you very much, Ma. Your time starts now.
Thank you very much, Benson. I need to apologize for appearing in shadow because it's actually raining very seriously here in Lagos too, which means that natural light is not light enough and the electricity is not lighting the light that lights my face. So apologies for looking like a shadowy figure. To an extent, I would say that, I need to say that Innocent was in the Civil Liberties Organization well before I was. He had joined the CLO as a youth corper and he was on the staff of the CLO. And I just came in as a member, a volunteer member. Then I was elected deputy president. And we were in the summer of 1995 when there was an allegation of a phantom coup, which our then executive director, Abdul Oro, Chima Ubani, and General Obasanjo's lawyer, Tunji Abayomi, had held a press conference to say that there was no such coup and that it was all a plot by the then military dictatorship led by Sani Abacha. So they were all arrested under Decree 2 and held without trial. And the CLO offices were raided, everybody had run away. And we spent that summer sort of basically hiding, like me right now, in the shadows. But by October, we said, this cannot continue. The organization is 8 years old and it should not finish here. And so we held a meeting at a secret location at which nobody else wanted the job of president except the deputy, which was me. And then the staff now, knowing the work that Innocent was doing, not just in his own program, which was the police program, but also in the helping others with their own work and their own programs. They said he would be the best person to be the acting executive director while Abdul was in prison. And I have to say that Innocent was a real bulwark. He was a strong support. I should say that at that time you had what Professor Chidi Odinkalu later had described as the loony left and the flashy right. And there were different tendencies within the human rights community. And they were both present in the Civil Liberties Organization. But one thing that Innocent, who had been a very strong activist during his student days, to the extent that he actually got rusticated and sent out of school, he had been a very strong activist during his student days, but he was also very understanding of the need to be able to speak to people who didn't necessarily share the alpha and omega of your political beliefs or ideology. So he was just the right person to bridge the gap and to make sure that all the different tendencies, instead of producing conflict and chaos, produced energy and vibrancy in the Civil Liberties Organization. So I think this is one of the things that we really look to, that I really remember Innocent for. But the CLO, no doubt, was an activist organization. I will say that when we realized that dealing with individual cases of police brutality and so on was not really addressing the fact that we were in a government system which was not itself accountable, meant that we then had to turn to activism to, first of all, put an end to military dictatorship, where, as we were already experiencing, you could be locked up without trial. And the military, in order to keep the population under control, was kind of allowing the Nigeria police force to live off the land, live off the people. And in that, they were following the same trajectory that the colonial masters had set up, which was not a system of providing security for the people in the country, but rather a system of providing protection for the government in power to make sure that nothing might arise to challenge them. So the CLO now had to be activist. And that was the context in which we were confronting the military dictatorship. And yet at the same time, we knew that we had to work with the individual components of the regime, including the police, in order to make them better. And I would say that it's against that background that we should see the decision that Innocent made when he won the Reebok Prize for Human Rights, which is a prize awarded to activists under the age of 30. That when he won that prize, he decided to set up the Clean Foundation so that he would be able to provide that link, which would be able to allow the police to come out from the corner into which they had been painted by history and the then circumstances, and turn themselves into a service for the people which would provide security. That is still very much an ongoing project. When I was appointed to the Police Service Commission in 2001, Innocent came to me and he said, look, we are here for you. Clean Foundation is your secretariat when it comes to this. And of course, at that time, we had somebody who had not been a police officer as our chairman of the Police Service Commission. Since then, unfortunately, the Nigerian government has fallen back into that situation where instead of looking for how to get out of that corner into which the police had been painted, they fell back on, well, the best way to do this is to just keep on appointing former police officers to head the Police Service Commission. And of course, when they come in with their existing police mentality, it's very difficult for them to come out of it. Of course, we have seen some who have been ready, who have been open to new ideas. But when push comes to shove, the concept of radical change may not have permeated. Nonetheless, we did what we could. We set up a system whereby members of the public could communicate with the police. We didn't say complain, we said communicate with the Police Service Commission. It could be praise, it could be condemnation, but you can come directly to us. Now, that was one of Innocent's ideas that still needs to be taken up and to be made real, one which even the police can communicate. I realize I'm running out of time, so I will just mention the last thing that Innocent brought me in on, which was to chair the civil society panel on police reform after another atrocity by the police. I would say that the recommendations of that panel, which were presented to the National Assembly in 2012, continue to be very relevant today. And perhaps, just as former Inspector General Solomon Arashe has said, if we had taken up so many of these ideas, which Innocent made real for us and helped us to articulate, if we had taken them up at the time when they were being presented, we would not have found ourselves in the kind of situation that the End SARS protests brought us to. I'm not talking about the violence that broke out after the 20th of October. I'm talking about the fact that Nigerians were all on board with the need to arrest the situation of police brutality because everybody was experiencing it. When we did the civil society panel, it was members of the working classes, the artisans. Now it had spread to the middle and even the upper classes. As the Inspector General said, it could be your relation tomorrow. It could even be you tomorrow. And I think that we were all on board with that idea of reforming the police or transforming the police because we knew that it was a situation which should not last. And I fear that if we continue to do this thing of the president just picks who he thinks will keep him in power rather than who he thinks will transform the police, and that is a process that can be done by competitive interview, application with your ideas and your plans, then we will not get out of it because the person who becomes Inspector General will ultimately feel that their obligation is to the person who put them there. So I realize, Benson, that I've gone well over my time. I want to stop there. I don't want to continue saying all that has been said, except that Innocent was a person in many parts. And in each of those parts, I believe he has prepared a successor plan. And we will miss him because he encapsulated so much in himself. But in the individual parts, I expect every one of you whom he brought up as your successors to keep the flag flying and to keep the torch alight.
Thank you, Ayobe. Just to also tell everybody here, the recommendations of the CSO panel on police reform was actually formally handed over to all the judicial panels of inquiry that have been set up by the federal government after the NSAS demonstrations, and we hope this time around it will be used for a good purpose. I want to now finally call on Professor Chris Stone, who is a professor of practice at the University of Oxford. Formerly, he was the president of Open Society Foundation and also a founding member of Autos Global. He has actually been with Innocent for quite some time. And interestingly, Innocent was planning to travel to University of Oxford to start writing his memoir at the University of Oxford before he passed on. So apparently, Prof must have also been waiting for him before he now had this unfortunate news. But here we are, Prof. And we want to look at the theory and practice of democratic policing and the experience with Autos Global and how this connects with Innocent and his ideas of policing a democratic space. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Benson, and thanks to everyone. There's so many heroes on this call today. Heroes of mine, collaborators over the years. It is some consolation for the loss we're all sharing. I'm just teaching today a novel by Chinua Achebe, who writes about how hard it is to think straight when the subject of, as he says, people not being seen when they are looked for comes up. And Innocent not seeing Innocent when we look for him now is still so hard every day. I want to just thank Professor Lemeka, sort of a colleague from a long time, and Lydia Umar both said, you know, that we're reading so many tributes, so many stories, so many memories about Innocent that I think none of us can really imagine how one human being could have been all these things to so many people. And those stories, I think, tell many lessons. They prove many things, but among them, I think Innocent literally became a legend in his own time. The stories of Innocent, they're all true, and it's impossible to comprehend in one memorial service. You know, his gift was to support others, and so each of us, I think each of us whom he taught, whom he coached, whom he supported, we each thought our work was his work, but his work clearly was so much more than any of ours. On the matters of substance about police reform and democratic rights, on which I worked with Innocent for 25 years, I think he left a mark, not just now, but in every project, in every talk, in every effort Innocent undertook. He was a conceptual genius. I think of three things I just will mention here. He understood when Nigeria was heading into its first civilian elections, that is the second election after dictatorship, but the first one held under a civilian government. He understood there was an opportunity because the Nigerian police had never policed a democratic election before under a civilian government. And he realized that was an opportunity to move the reform, the transformation, as Mina says, the transformation agenda, a leap forward, not just an inch forward. And he understood that if he could supply the ground rules, the working blueprint for how to police the elections, a brand new thing under a civilian government for the police, that it might be a way to introduce practices that would be relevant beyond elections, actually, in ordinary times. And so he and Clean created a guide that ended up being distributed nationally through the police about the policing of elections. But it wasn't just about the policing of elections. It was, as I always said, it was about what a police in a democracy might look like. The second one, which I was also talked about, was police accountability. Innocent worked on lots of projects and lots of individual ambitions, individual reforms. But a conceptual theme he had cutting across all of them was the need for accountability in a democratic police force. It wasn't that the police weren't ever going to use violence. It wasn't that they weren't ever going to do wrong. It's that whenever they did, they had to be democratically accountable. And as I was describing, Innocent saw the potential in the Police Service Commission, and it became an obsession with Innocent. I can't remember how many visits I would make with Innocent. He would bring me or other colleagues to meetings of the Police Service Commission. We would meet with the chair, we would meet with all sorts of people, and then he would bring Simon Okeke, the chair in those days, to meetings in Kenya and in Europe and in Latin America to talk about the kind of accountability. So it wasn't just accountability copied from the North or copied from a colonial structure. It was new. It was a new form of accountability embedded in the Nigerian constitution, but never until then made real. And the third, so the first was about the power of policing elections, and the second was about the power of democratic accountability. I think the third conceptual breakthrough that I learned about from Innocent was his focus on what happened in police stations. In many countries, police stations are not really where policing happens. Policing happens on the streets, policing happens elsewhere in homes and businesses, in stadia. But Innocent understood that in the Nigerian context, a huge amount of the problem and perhaps an element of the solution was about what happened in police stations. It was one of the connections with his Indian colleagues and colleagues in other countries as well that had a similar structure. And so he invented, as people have said, a way of getting citizens to visit police stations, or running human rights desks or other desks inside police stations, in working with station commanders about their own role and responsibilities. In 100 ways, Innocent ran different projects, all with a focus understanding about the place of policing. So those were just 3 conceptual contributions I think Innocent made to the field and to many of us working in other countries. But Innocent also understood that across all those 3, across elections, accountability, police stations, there were tools you had to use. You had to reinforce positive behavior, not just criticize negative behavior. You had to have a division of labor, as we've heard, between civil society groups criticizing and civil society groups like Clean assisting the police leadership. You had to have skepticism, as Solomon Rossi was saying, about what comes from the North, or what comes from wealthy countries with their imperial traditions. Across all of that, he understood the importance of managing the power relationships with Northern counterparts. So there was all of that at the conceptual change level. But there was also Innocent. If that was all he'd done, I don't think his mark would be nearly as strong, because he also, in addition to being a conceptual genius, he was a practical political genius. He understood in ways very few civil society leaders, I think, have been able to see. He certainly taught me to see the importance of the role of civil society. That's where his fascination with Gramsci came in. It's where his own vision about personal leadership in NGOs came in. He despaired of how long many leaders stayed in civil society organizations. They didn't appreciate the importance of a rebirth of leadership and the passing on of leadership. As Savior wrote in the chat a few minutes ago, he was a leader who produces more leaders, and he taught leaders how to produce more leaders as well. And you could see this genius in not just how he engaged cross-nationally from those early days with Mina, as we've heard about, with Renuka and other colleagues in the Altus Alliance, but even more recently in the latest project that I was working with him on, the Symposium on Strength and Solidarity for Human Rights. Innocent worked on how we work together. And he cared about solidarity, he cared about coalitions, but it was before the term ally and allyship had become popular again. He was focused on what it meant to be in real alliance, to really work alongside other organizations, and to commit oneself to real work on the ground alongside others. All of this was evident. All these themes I mentioned were evident in response, his response to NSARS. I think on the civil society side, in the last few weeks and months, Innocent would talk gleefully about how the NSARS activists wanted him and his generation to stand back and not make the decisions, not tell them how to run this campaign, that this was going to be a time for new passion, new leadership, new direction in a struggle for police transformation in Nigeria. And he reveled in the assertion of that new young leadership. But he also, at the same time, as Benson mentioned, and as others have referenced, he saw in that moment a link with others globally that I'm not sure anybody else I was talking to saw. He saw a conceptual breakthrough at a global level, the opportunity to work on the meaning of violent policing against Black men and women, against children and adults, against Black bodies, as he said to me. He said the police violence against the Black person is not just a matter for the United States, where the Black communities are in a minority. It's an issue here in Nigeria. It's an issue in the favelas in Brazil. And we should be able to work across countries like Brazil and Nigeria and the United States to better understand why it is that policing on a global scale has come to find it so easy to be violent against the Black body. That is work. I hope someone will continue. It was a measure of how Innocent, I think, was always trying to understand what was new in a situation, to contribute conceptually, but at the same time to celebrate other people's leadership. I think, Xavier, you're right. I think he was a leader, but who will be known for the leaders that he's left us and that now are there to lead us farther forward. Thanks for this opportunity, and I look forward to staying with you for the rest of this program. Thanks, Benson.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. On that note, I want to hand over to my colleague, Ruth, to take further the discussions, and that will be the tributes. If you would like to have one, please indicate, and my colleague, Ruth, will take it from there. Thank you. Ruth, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Thank you to our speakers. Listening to each one of you, I just kept seeing Innocent like a piece of onion. So each layer, new information, new knowledge is being unveiled. And a lot of people have said that it was even at his death that so many projects that he had involved himself in were made known to people. We will miss him dearly. And I continue to say that Innocent has left very big shoes, but it's also a challenge to the rest of us that are here to see how we can contribute to that space. And that is police transformation, police reform. I like the idea of police transformation, and I think that it's something we need to sustain, looking at what is happening to police institutions globally. Just as Dr. Benson has said, we have designed this program in such a way that we'll have the technical part of it and then the tributes, because we know that not many persons will be available at the nights of tributes happening in Abuja and Owerri. But of course, the online platform gives us that opportunity. So we're going to have 2 minutes, please. I'll be very strict with the time because we want to, as much as possible, end this whole discussion at 6 o'clock. So our aim is that at 5:50 our time, West African time, we will end a couple of the session on tributes and then give our speakers a final round to just wrap up their thoughts. So I'll start with Tunji Ladna. 2 minutes tribute. You want to make a contribution to what has been said, please go ahead, but I'll be very strict with time. Please permit me, because today is the holiday in Nigeria, and I'm sure for elsewhere, people will need to get back to their rest. So Tunji, please, you have the floor. Tunji Ladna.
Yeah, thank you so much speak. Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. one of the recurring themes is just so his footprint has just been wide. Also, my phenomenon, because it really is a phenomenon called innocent. There's peeling an onion. So every time you peel an onion, there's always another layer. So I'm offering this as my own framing. I want all of us to participate in the thought experiment here. I want you in your mind's eye to think of a target, the literal target, right? And think of it also as outwardly radiating concentric circles, right? At the epicenter of that circle is innocent and the humanity of innocent. And that is basically the strength of who this gentleman was, his love for family, his love for humanity. And it's just the sheer strength of that radiated outwards. At the increasingly outward layers of it are now the good works of innocent, but there's just too many. We can radiate from the inside epicenter outward, from all the local work he did in Nigeria, in Africa, to by the time you get to the 10th and 9th ring, you're talking about the world. So for me, it's really our own challenge to make sure that from the epicenter that we've all come to understand that innocent represents, that we continue the outward radiation of these concentric rings all through time. Innocent will not die, cannot die, because his ideas have global and universal application. It's very, very tough for me. You know, I don't want to go reminiscing about the last time I met with Innocent, but the last conversation I had with him was ironically on police reforms. I mean, he's been a friend, a brother, a mentor. It is just a very painful loss. And I can't even say this without my voice cracking up. But again, he lives through us and through his good works and through the love of his family. And at this point, we pray for divine support for his family. We should ensure that the concentric rings of excellence and the work that he has done radiates forever. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Yes, continue the good works of Innocent. I'll move on to CDD, and I suspect that should be David Anyaile. Please, you have the floor. Thank you, Tunji.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is David Obinna Anyele. I'm the Script Director, Center for Citizens with Disabilities. It's painful to note that my mentor is no more. It's excruciating that I will not talk to him again. However, his legacy lives on. When I hear innocent, it represents inclusion. He represented participation, equal opportunity. In specific, as this conversation around police reform, public safety, and democratic rights we are going on, it reminds me on how during my conversation with him in the early days of the police visitors program, and I drew his attention. I said, we need to also capture how people with disabilities are being have access to police stations. And immediately bought into it, and he says that I should ensure that I mobilize people with disabilities for them to be part of police visitors program. And that was it. Moving forward, the report captures experience of people with disabilities, which is, that does not cover all issues that has to do with marginalized population. Foundation will sustain this legacy made manifest by dedication of the Board of Trustees of Claim Foundation, by commitment of the staff of Claim Foundation, that we will say that the legacies of Innocent Chukwuma lives on depends on how key players in Claim Foundation manages this organization, so that by next year, while we will be discussing or having this kind of forum to discuss these legacies again, we will say of a truth that Claim Foundation is standing even though the founder is no more. That would show that all of us that are part of this are really committed to ensuring that the love we are showing today is sustainable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. Claim Foundation will definitely continue to remain and stand and even grow stronger. But thank you so much for your kind words. Commissioner Romimon is of the Police Service Commission. You have the floor. 2 minutes. Thank you. Commissioner Romimon.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Ruth. And I just want to say, for me, Innocent perhaps more than any person and institution in Nigeria shaped the civil society activists and actors of my own brand or generation, so to speak. Of course, not that which ousted the military, but that which came thereafter, and from the days of TMG and all. Perhaps Innocent is one amongst the few society actors then that could stand till he passed and speak to both the very young and infancy, so to speak, activists and those of his age or those of his own class and beyond. And everybody in the room will be very, very much at peace, very, very much at home and all of that. His relationship, as we have been saying here, was human and cut across all cadres. He was there for everybody. For us at the Police Service Commission, we have truly, truly, truly very seriously lost a pillar of support, both within the organization that he created, which is clean, and Innocent as a person. I know that the Police Service Commission, for the 2 years before I was nominated and appointed, did not have a civil society representative. Once my appointment was announced and confirmed, Innocent was one of the very first person to reach to me to talk to me about the Herculean task that I had, given that civil society representation at the Police Service Commission was not there for some time. He ensured and made sure that we had a strategic plan put in place less than 4 months after the inauguration of the present board. And along with Kemi, Ruth, and all, he was there at the retreat where we developed the strategic plan. He contributed in a technical session. I remember nights we had meetings with him and the chairman. Look, this thing about police transformation or reform, whatever we call it, this was in the blood of Innocent, not just for the heck of the transformation, but for what that meant for the Nigerian on the street, and for that what means to the Nigerian on the street. That is the person for me that I remember and I cherish so very much. Like I said, and like Xavier and others said here, he was someone that birthed leaders. It wasn't just about him. Even within the TMG, when he was chairman of the TMG, he emphasized that he was going to take a back seat and simply facilitate while people grew into their offices. And so there is this motley and cluster of leaders all over civil society spectrum in Nigeria that are Innocent's children. And those ideas and these persons will ensure that Innocent lives. He's not gone. I mean, for us and for Police Service Commission, we're going to miss him, and may his soul find perfect peace in the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, sir. Legends don't die. I believe strongly that Innocent lives through the many babies that he has worked with, he has birthed. Innocent was big with something, working with young people, to inspire, to engender a new generation of persons who are going to take up, the mantle. I do hope that not just clean, those of us who are working within this space, young persons who are here, take up that challenge to sustain the movement. But thank you so much. Sadiq, did I get that? Sadiq Ishaq Rada.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, I got it.
Thank you very much. In fact, when the network was bad in my area in Abuja, I sent a written tribute in the chat box. But since I have this opportunity, I want to repeat what I have said, which is that I came to know him during his student activism. He was very vibrant, he was ethical, and he was concerned about the welfare of students and the Nigerian society. Then as an academic staff in Bayero University, Kano, and as a criminologist, there is simply nobody in Nigeria, or I should say in Africa, who will study criminology without coming across the writings of Innocent Chukwuma and Professor Itanibi Alemika. Alemika is our leader in the field, and they have been working together, especially regarding police reforms. So some of us knew him very well even before he came to know us. But of recent, precisely 2015 to date, I came to work closely with him because as a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, we were enjoying support from MacArthur Foundation, Ford Foundation, and OSIWA, which made it necessary for us to interface with the officials of the three development partners. And we came to work fairly closely with Innocent Chukwuma, and you could see apparently, palpably, and visibly his disdain for corruption and poor governance. So you can say that he's someone who devoted his entire life to the service of humanity so that his life could be better for the generality of the people he come across while conducting his official and even private business. So for me, we have lost Innocent Chukwuma at a time when he's needed most because our country is confronted with a lot of security challenges during a time when everybody is expected to make a contribution to make things better for our society. Despite the fact that he has left us at a time he's needed most, I feel he has made his mark, he has made his contributions, he has made it very clear that the socio-economic, political, and policy space cannot and should not be left to the government and government alone. Civil society organizations have contributions to make. And therefore, while he's no more with us, we should continue with his spirit, with his wisdom and vision and philosophy of a better Nigeria. On this note, I say, rest in peace, Innocent Chukwuma, and for us, it's great loss because he's intricately close to one of our members of our Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, who is Professor Itanibi Alemika. So the loss is for us all, but I know some people are closer to him than us. We condole everybody, his family, Itanibi Alemika, and the Clean Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you. I see Ambassador Noja. Ambassador Noja, please keep it 2 minutes. 2 minutes, thank you. And after that, I'll just take tributes via the chat box, Osai, and then Dr. Lucy. Ambassador Noja.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. What will I say? But to thank God who gave us life. Speaking, I'm too small to speak about Innocent Chukwuma. Though I've not worked with Innocent very closely, but from a distance, his radiance lit my way. Innocent Chukwuma is at the background of many great things that has happened in this country and in West Africa and Africa, and even globally. But he's somebody you will never notice on the stage. He is a silent revolutionary. He is somebody who goes unnoticed and does all the work. Look at the achievement of Innocent Chukwuma. And not even for one day will he seek to be noticed. It didn't enter his head like we do today with a little achievement. Pride overrides everything. The case of Innocent leaves a lot of challenge for us and especially our elites. Innocent Chukwuma's contribution is not something I can emphasize. I have only one word to describe him. He belongs to the realm of exceptionalism. Just that. In fact, I had an unfinished discussion with Innocent. I reached out to him and he gave me a feedback. So when I was supposed to get back to him on the issue that we need to talk, very amazingly and very shockingly, I heard about his death. It was like a dream to me, but this is life. I want to thank God for him. I want to plead that the wife, my sister Josephine F, and the children, and the immediate family, nobody should mourn Innocent Chukwuma because his legacy is unrivaled and Chukwuma lives. If I die like Chukwuma, I will tell everybody, nobody to cry for me, because the level of achievement that Chukwuma had made in this short time, it is amazing. And Nigeria has indeed lost a glorious son. And I pray that our country, our nation, will find a place to give Innocent Chukwuma a very good recognition. His contribution to a workable, a serviceable, a governable, a democratic policing for Nigeria is unquantifiable. And he carried on with this to the grave. I want to sincerely plead with the wife and the children that God will encourage them. Chukwuma lives, and I pray that every one of us who are talking today, we will take one piece of Chukwuma and leave it so that we can make our society better. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Ambassador from Next Generation Youth Initiative International, Makurdi, Benue State. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. An ambassador used to work with us on a project around building resilience around communities in the middle belt of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Ambassador. I will just take this written chat from Osai Ojiho, who is the Amnesty Country Director in Nigeria. She says, it was a privilege to know Innocent Chukwuma and benefit from his generosity. He is sorely missed. May his soul rest in peace. Amen. Thank you so much. I saw Samson Itodo, but before Samson, I would like to take Dr. Lucy. She says she's from outside the CSO network, but very close to Innocent and Mrs. Chukwuma. Dr. Lucy, if you're still on the call. Okay, Dr. Lucy.
Thank you.
Dr. Lucy, yes, please.
Yes, I am. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm not within the CSO network, but my tribute will just show the kind of person that Innocent was. I used to be the bank officer with FSB, the former FSB International Bank, and I was the relationship manager for non-governmental organizations and NGOs. I managed accounts for Ford Foundation and MacArthur. So that was how I got to know about Clean. And then I met Innocent, and he had this attitude of asking questions. And from the asking questions, you now know how he can place you. And based on that, he told me, I'm not just an account officer, that I should actually be in the CSO network. And then he said, I think you should meet my wife. She works about the issue of Project Alert. And that was how I got to know about his work. I got to know about Clean because my bank was like relating based on partnership, understanding the business. That was how I went to CSO networks and I got more engaged in the work of Project Alert. Over the years, I became almost like a member of the family. I knew about milestone birthdays, milestone wedding anniversaries. Me and Josephine, we became like sisters. So I just want to appreciate his life, and we thank God for all that he has done. And then I found myself on ANAP Foundation think tank on COVID-19. He was very passionate about the pandemic, and he stood for safety and all those things. So honestly, I just pray that God comforts Josephine and the children, but I pray that all that they've heard today, it will be a source of comfort for them through life. And each and every one of us have heard what he did. And I think at the end of this week, we should just be asking, Innocent has done his role. What is mine and how much can I do about that? And as a society, we should also learn how to appreciate people while they're still with us. Thank you very much. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Innocent's death actually taught me that it's not about how long, but how well. His life was short and very, very impactful. It's something that we need to reflect on from time to time. Debola Lewis, please, you have the floor. After you, I'll take Chido or Numa. Debola Lewis.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to first of all introduce myself. My name is Debola Lewis. I'm the admin director of Lagos State Security Trust Fund. And I'd like to just say a few words because Innocent Chukwuma, we encountered him sometime in 2009, I think 2010, when he was doing a victimization survey. And since then,
did we lost you, Debola? Okay, quickly, Chido. I think we have lost Debola. Chido.
All right. Thanks, Ruth. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, and Clean, for putting this together. Where do I start? Innocent was more than a friend. He was like a brother to me. We had a relationship that spanned more than 3 decades, from the student movement through our NYC and work life. But I'd just like to quickly talk about Innocent and his impact. A lot has been said about him in terms of his involvement with police reform, public safety, and so on. Innocent transcended that. He was a man of big ideas, but importantly, he was also someone with a very large heart. And I am one of the beneficiaries of that largeness of heart. I wrote a tribute which I titled "We've Lost Our Innocent," and I have a PhD in communication and journalism, and it was thanks to Innocent that I was able to do that. And it didn't, the way he made it so easy for those who've been interested in knowing much about that can read up on that. The only thing I just want to quickly add is that we have to find a way to memorialize Innocent and what he stood for. It's something that's been at the back of my mind since his death. And I just wanted to throw up the idea here. It's something we should consider both institutionally, in terms of writing and so on. It's very, very important, not just to honor him, but also as a learning process for all the people whose life he has impacted. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We welcome your ideas. At this point, a lot of ideas are on the table. We want to sustain the legacy. We want to keep his memories, his dreams, and everything that he stood for. Finally, Samson. But before Samson, I just want to note that on Wednesday, we will be having the Night of Tribute in Abuja. So I encourage those of us that are physically here on ground to please join us at the Yaradua Center, 4 p.m., 4 to 6 p.m. in the evening for a night of tribute. You will have the opportunity to share your thoughts, share your tributes on that platform. Thank you so much for that. But there's going to be an opportunity for those who also want to connect virtually. Samson.
Well, thank you very much, Ruth. Good evening, everyone. In case you lose me, the weather where I am is not so friendly. Actually, I'm here with our mommy, Mrs. Josephine, currently in the house where I'm joining this colloquium. But I just like to say that we all miss Innocent dearly as a generation, particularly the younger generation. If there was one individual who had special interest in the younger generation and wanted to see us succeed in our work, it was Innocent. He paid close attention. He provided leadership and mentorship for us. We would miss him dearly. We will miss him as a humanist. We will miss him as a decent man. We will miss him as someone who didn't care about attribution and never wanted to take credits for most of the ideas that he shared with us. And as we continue this work, I just like to say that even as a generation, we will continue to immortalize Innocent. And in the course of our work, we would reflect these values that he holds very dear: the values of integrity, the values of patriotism, the values of hard work and excellence. And I'd like to say to the family and to all of us across the world who miss him dearly, that his death has left us with a rule book for how we live our lives moving forward. Thank you once again to Clean for putting this together and all the previous speakers. Innocent lives on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thought I'll be able to take a word of appreciation from Mrs. Chukuma already in the chat box. I'll come back to do that. But just to give our panelists 1 minute each, I will hand over now to Dr. Benson to just take that process forward. Thank you, everyone that has shared their mind, their thoughts on the man Innocent. I'll just end this part to say, legends don't die. And I think my colleague Chigo noted that Innocent lives on. Let's have that at the back of our minds and then take this process, everything he lived for, his legacy, take everything forward and make policing Nigeria globally better. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth, our dear program manager. Thank you for handling that very well. So we want to have the final thoughts from our panelists. We've also heard from different people. I've had Innocent being an onions. That reminds me of Shrek and the onion story. And also, I've also had the elephant. When an elephant falls, there are several parts to an elephant. And then there's also the story of the Iroko. When an Iroko gets down also, so many things come down with it. But now it's for our panelists to give us their final words. And I will start with Professor Christone. I'm sure he spoke last, and then we'll take it from there. I know that Ranuka has gone to sleep because it's way past midnight in India, and what that had said, he will also be moving on for that thing. So, Prof, final thoughts?
Just, I mean, I can't add to what's been said. I mean, it's a terrible, we're dealing, I think all of us, with loss, and yet the strength in all that has been said tonight, this afternoon. It's powerful, and I think that for me the legacy, the legend, the strength of Innocent Chukuma is all of you. It's all of and so many more beyond us. It's it is so it's so wrong that we lost him when at a moment when he was so excited about what was to come. He had so much more to give to us and to give to our societies. It's an unfathomable loss, and yet the strength, I think, that we've heard from so many people tonight is itself a great testament and a great asset, and we simply have to live up to it. We have to live up to that expectation, and we have to follow his lead, even now. Thanks, Benson.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you for those words. I'll move on to Ayobe. Ayo, your final thoughts?
I think that because Innocent really set up such a fantastic organization in Clean and helped so many others to establish NGOs, there's a kind of danger that we tend to think in terms of the legacy as being those NGOs continue. Innocent was interested in getting the mechanics out of the way so that the NGOs could do the thing that they came into existence to achieve. And in his case, the first thing that he set up an NGO was to achieve police change, to make the police accountable to the people and to make them a service for the security of the people. So while we will have something next year, some of us will be here by the grace of God. Let us make it not just a talk or a lecture, let's make it a progress report. Let us say how far along this road that Innocent set us on.
Thank you very much. That's very profound. The next person is Dr. Solomon Arase, former IGP. You're muted, sir. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Benson. Well, I don't know how to conclude this, but all I just want to appeal to a lot of you in these civil society organizations to see that intelligence-led policing is deepened. Once there is that trust deficit, you know, the public and the police formations and organizations, then community policing is just a mirage. You cannot get community policing done except there is that trust gap, you know, is bridged. And that is why I will want a situation where you people should try and take a look at what is started in, do we have to detain people before we start looking for evidence to prosecute them? No. We have to, you know, custodian violence, all those things we should try and, you know, see, you people should work more on those things. And just like our big sister said, IOB, maybe sometime by next year when we are doing this again, we want to see what progress have we made, you know, about the legacies of this man who worked tirelessly to ensure that Nigerians, they have a police force that is professional, that is knowledge-driven, that is, you know, mentally mobile. Those are the things that Innocent Chukwuma stood for. And his humility was just, you know, profound. Innocent Chukwuma, you know, did not wear the toga of, you know, oh, I have arrived, you know, or, you know, his leadership style was, you know, all inclusive. And those of you who worked with him, you can attest to that. So to Josephine and the young ladies, I wish you well, and be rest assured, we will always be there for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, IGP Solomon Arase, retired. Ranuka has gone to sleep. It's way past midnight in India. Then Mina Kaya told us he will leave shortly after because of other engagements. So we are gradually coming to the end. Just to remind us, just like Ruth had said, is that I think on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, there'll be a service of songs at Vining Hall, at Bishop Vining Memorial Cathedral Church in Ikeja, GRA Ikeja, Lagos. Time is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then by Wednesday, that's 5th May, there'll be commendation service at the same venue. Time is 9 a.m. And like Ruth had said, in the evening, there'll be a night of tributes at Yaradua Center by 4 p.m. And then by 10th, there'll be night of tributes at our local Institute of Technology. And for those who also don't know, Innocent was also the person who set up Oluwaka Institute of Technology to support young Nigerians actually to get work. I'm not just have certificates that cannot help them to get work. So that tribute will be in the Institute on Monday the 10th by 4 to 6 p.m. And then on Wednesday the 12th, there'll be a Christian wake keep at his hometown. Umuodia Pam, Ekwerazo, and Ahiazumbise local government area of Imo State. Time will be 4 p.m. And then the funeral service will be at Silas Anglican Church at the same venue, Pam, Ekwerazo, Ahiazumbise, to start by 11 a.m. And then on Sunday, there'll be outing service at the same church. And then on the, that's 14th of May. And then on the 23rd of May, there'll be a Thanksgiving service at Archbishop Vining Memorial Cathedral Church in Ikeja, Lagos. There's also a program that is being anchored by Center for Memories. I think that should also come in the week. But if you are on the Memorial platform, you'll be able to see it. We couldn't put it on the advert we did because of space. That's also to tell you that Innocent had his hands in so many things. And because of space, we could not contain all that we wanted to share with you. But once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. There is vote of thanks. I don't know whether Mrs. Shuguma is here, if she's in the mood to give vote of thanks. If not, any board member or Professor Alemeka, who actually started, can help us to do the vote of thanks, and then we close. And those who want to stay back, there's a documentary we are showing. We'll still show it on Wednesday. It was actually at the 20th anniversary documentary. We didn't show it actually during the 20th anniversary because it wasn't ready. But you will see so many people, especially also the people you are seeing here, talk about Clean Foundation. But on hindsight, actually, basically, they were also talking about Innocent. So, vote of thanks. I don't know whether Mrs. Chukuma is here or whether she will want to say something, or Professor Alemeka is here. If not, I will call on my colleague, Ruth, my co-host, to give a vote of thanks. But if there's any board member who is here,
yeah,
please
thank
feel
you,
free.
Benson.
Okay, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Thank you for saving me.
Yeah, it's nice listening out to all of you, to many of the things you have to say about Innocent. Like I said, somehow it's so difficult for me to think Innocent is not alive. I'm actually living in self-denial, and when I'm confronted, I break down. But that is what Innocent, and a lot of people have said it. I knew Innocent while he was working at CLO, and in 1990, he invited me to a workshop, I think one of the first workshops by Clean Foundation in Abuja. And shortly after that, he said, please, are you willing to serve as the trustee of this organization and as well as the board? And I've worked on it. And Innocent has a way of playing some joke. A few months ago, I've told him, I said, look, I want to step down as the chairman of the board of Clean Foundation. And he didn't give an answer. He just laughed and laughed his usual hilarious laugh, and I just went away. He didn't give an answer. That's a big joke, typical of Innocent. So we all encountered him in different ways. But like I said, I think one of the things to take away for me has been the integrity. People talk about how brilliant he had been, how a genius, how a legend. One thing for which I respected and will respect Innocent has been his integrity. People wonder why Clean Foundation had attained what it is today. It is because of the financial integrity of Innocent. It is because of the integrity that he wanted to lead and not to benefit from it. He didn't want to achieve vain glory. And these are just wonderful things that I will continue to remember, that it is possible for an individual to be. Many times they say in Nigeria, our value have been so eroded with everything we reduce in, now we go chop. Innocent had been one of those Nigerians who didn't believe that everything is about eating. It is not about chopping, but about contributing to society. I want to thank all of you as we continue this program. And this is just the beginning. Like many have said, yes, even in sending him off from this side of eternity, that continues for the next 2 weeks. But more importantly, in the long run, is the amount of reflection we're going to undertake and how that reflection reflects our life. especially at a time like this that Nigeria needs patriots, need nationalists, not just compromise. People ask, what is the strength of clean? And I say, it is ability to work with government and yet not be co-opted by government. And I do hope civil society organizations, as we walk this road, we will continue to learn from the values he held and the way he lived those values. Thank you all for coming. We expect you in the subsequent programs.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we hope we'll have another opportunity for those who will be in Lagos, for those who will be in Abuja, and for those who are going to be in Owerri. And like everybody really said, the board is still discussing, but there is that general agreement that we'll have a memorial lecture on his honor every year. The dates, the times will definitely be communicated. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you. Thank you.
National time.
The World Cup. Just few months before General Sani Abacha passed on, a certain gentleman sitting on his dining table staring at his laptop in his Ikeja residence conceived the idea of the organization that will bring sanity to a whole lot of shortcomings in the Nigerian legal system and beyond. Innocent Chukwuma, the founder of the Clean Foundation, formerly known as the Center for Law Enforcement Education in Nigeria. Well, like a new child that's destined to greatness, it was difficult finding a name to match its destiny. Now back to reality.